That's what I did. I had a really hard time fitting in with my family.
I feel like you get sarcasm. Maybe not though.
I'm evolving. Yeah, because of my wife's family doesn't actually say anything they intend.
Yeah.
It's all sarcasm. And it took a while to say things. I'd be like, what? It's horrible. Or why would you say that to someone?
Oh, yeah.
It's so caustic.
So before we really get started, I just wanted to let you know kind of how our podcast, like what the idea of our podcast is.
Let's do it.
Searchable Reptiles. It started because he was trying to come up with a name for it. He's like, and he was saying, well, I want it to be at least, even if we're not going to necessarily talk about reptiles and all this thing, like that's what brought us together at least. And I want it to be at least like searchable as reptiles. And it's like, that's it? He's like, what's it? I was like, that's the name of the podcast. And he's like, what?
No, it isn't.
What? No, it doesn't make any what?
Yeah.
So I pushed really hard for it. But the idea is we know each other because of reptiles.
Absolutely.
And the whole reason to do the podcast is to kind of get to know each other better just by talking to each other about whatever happens to come up.
Because we both do reptiles professionally.
What?
Yeah.
When did you start that?
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
A couple years ago.
You didn't know that.
I thought you guys kind of dabbled in
Yeah. Oh, no.
reptiles. So you're kind of like,
Are you being serious? I'm
no, see?
okay. I didn't get it. I told you, Peruvian. Right here.
Well, having guests on is a new thing for us. And I just wanted to say, well, I'm excited to have you as guests because I watched your videos first. So I saw those videos first and I was like, as I told you when I actually met you in person, I was wondering when I was watching, is this guy real? Like, is this like, this guy can't be like for real like this. And then I met you at Tinley and we're hanging out and I was like, okay, you are actually like this in real life.
Yeah, it takes about 20 seconds to be like, wow, yeah, that's him. That's genuine.
But then we only get to hang out for a little bit. Tinley's busy; it's a busy show. And then we were coming here when Dave was invited me here. I still didn't know, and Dave was worried that I was going to offend you. He told me that
I'm constantly offended by
so he was worried, and I was like, well, I don't know. I was like, so I didn't know. But now that we got to hang out for this past week, it's like you're super freaking laid back and chill and cool. And like the jokes that apply,
oh man, guys, Clint is on point.
Dude, I've laughed. I've fallen into the.
I don't know how you come up with this stuff. Do you practice?
You're quick.
I had a time in high school. I'm not that quick, but when I was in high school, there was a time where a few times where somebody would say something, they'd set me up perfectly, and I'd stumble over my words, or it would come to you later and you're like, oh, that's what I should have said, and so I did put some work into make sure you calm down and enunciate a little bit so you don't mess up this line, because you can't circle back around and nail it the next time to one and done.
I could see that. I was actually going to say you're like the master of the awkward silence. As soon as the conversation has a lull, he pops up like a little turkey from behind a log and just drops something on you, and then everyone pees their pants, and then he kind of goes like this and walks away.
It's funny. I like humor a lot. When I sit down, I try to write funny things. Can't do it. Right? I write technical writing. I'm like, this sucks. It just has to just come out. It's not a lot of time to screen it.
That would be a really cool premise for a stage comedian. You're like, okay, I can't be funny unless you guys are talking. So start talking at me and then just drop them. Absolute audience
I'm a
participation.
response comedian, so if you could start talking about whatever, I'll chime in periodically. I don't want to be the center of this.
That's exactly. So there's a microphone under your seat.
Well, and
everybody pick them up.
I'm not a center of the party sort of a person. I am a sit on the side and make little comments here and there.
Like the turkey popping up.
That's what I do. I was at a party one time that was horrible. And some people were like, Clint, go be the center of the party. I'm like, that's not what I do. I don't do that.
You look like you'd be good at breakdancing.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm working on my breakdancing.
Yeah.
I'm killer.
Yeah, good.
Killer.
I believe it.
My head spin.
Yeah. Did you record my little dance moves before the
I don't know. I don't even know if we're recording now.
Wait, are you being sarcastic?
I mean, I don't know. Let me look at the camera real quick. I just wanted to get us warmed up.
Oh, man.
All right, yeah, the camera's on.
Oh, good.
Not that it matters. It's mostly supposed to be a podcast. This is actually only our third episode that we're actually recording video. People wanted to see what was happening.
It is also, you're a third guest ever.
No big deal.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just told him that.
Oh.
It's kind of a big deal, though.
I wasn't
Well,
paying
he
attention.
said third video guest, and he kind of made it sound like third guest.
No,
Full
straight up
stop.
third
So
guess.
now
Third guess, full stop.
See, I'm getting more information each time I hear from one of you.
Full stop. Well, people really
And my
wanted to-
stories get better every time I tell them,
That's
too.
true. It has a term.
sometimes we're doing stuff and people were like trying to figure out what's going on, or like, because if it's just audio, obviously you can't know what's happening visually. So that was the big reason. There were some things that happened in a certain podcast. Oh, he shaved his arms
I did.
In the
on the podcast.
For the podcast, I had to
It
shave my
shows.
arms. Yeah,
Before
well,
the
they're back
snake.
now. For
The idea was that you see our arms are, you know,
I had a theory.
it looks like I have none, even though this light you can actually kind of see it. But the idea was the snakes would be poking their faces when they're crawling up his arms, to be uncomfortable.
They'd be like, oh,
so he shaved
and
for the
jumping.
snakes.
of course.
To have them
Yeah,
more
well,
comfortable.
I assumed obviously it's not manly to shave your body hair, except for all of our listeners who called me when I suggested the idea and said that they've been doing it for years. I'm sure you guys are very manly.
It's for
Other
the
than
snakes for
that-
them too, maybe.
I'm not sure if that was the case. There was
So-
one guy who noticed the difference, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, if
never
professional
even done that
athletes can do
experiment.
it. Yeah, if professional athletes can shave to be more hydrodynamic, or runners think they're a little faster that way, or in football, at least you're not ripping your leg hair off when you take the tape off your socks. But I figured I could, as a professional snake breeder, if I had an excuse to shave my arms, it would work, and it did, and it made a big difference. But my wife stopped touching me, so I grew that back out.
Now, she stopped touching you only while it was fully shaved, or was it when you were prickly?
No, she didn't like any of it. Yeah, she
She's
did
like,
not-
I'm not touching
Did
you
not like the
at
yeah.
all. She just
and
cut
then
you off?
And then I called the guys who told me I should shave, and I was like, "How long does it take to grow back?" And they're like, "Oh, like maybe 3 months." I was like, "Oh, awesome! There's gonna be some sweet, intimate time with my snakes for the next 3 months because my wife's not gonna touch me." So I don't know if it was an equal trade-off, but yeah, it was an interesting.
So did she hold
experiment.
out for the full 3 months?
No comment.
We're not back yet, huh?
Yeah, it's still only at 75% length.
Yeah.
Dude, so you are contemplating, or have you actually made the decision to make the YouTube channel your thing, your full-time thing?
It's not my, so I don't want to sever my ties with academia. I like teaching in the classroom. But I also recognize if I have a full-time position there, like it's really, all along to this point, I've pretty much done Clint's Reptiles on the side. And I don't want it to be on the side. Like, I really enjoy it, and I feel like there's an opportunity to teach and just interact with so many more people than I ever would have imagined. One of the things that really stands out to me, not only is it clear that we've changed people's perspectives on reptiles, but there are a lot of people. It's uncanny how many comments there are about people who talk about how they were dealing with serious depression, and that our channel really helps them through it. That just the positivity and
I think you
and
and I have both
enthusiasm.
gotten the same kind of comments.
Whoa,
before.
and I can totally see that from
Yeah.
both of you guys. And it's like, I really believe strongly in what we're doing, and so it's been a sacrifice to go this route. But like I feel like there are a lot of people who, like, I went to school for a long time, and a lot of people that go to school for this kind of time, like I think they think very narrowly about what they can do with their education, that they're gonna, sort of pursue the sorts of careers that were there a generation ago because that's what you do with that education. And it's like, there's so much more that you could do that just wasn't there before. And I don't think I could have known that this was possible if we weren't already so far down this path. And I see like what is really possible, and how many lives you can touch, and how much good information you can share, and I'm excited about that. And so it's like, if there's a way, the scary thing is I see really clearly how this works for the next 5 years. And I'm sort of just going on faith that it keeps going after that in some way that I probably can't even imagine right now what that would be.
I think as long as you're keeping yourself open to the opportunity like you are now, those things will open up for you, especially the outreach that your channel has started to have. Those opportunities are just going to keep opening up. And this is the thing that also pleasantly surprised me about you, is that I do know what you're talking about. When people get so focused on academia, they can get that kind of tunnel vision and get kind of more narrow-minded about things. You are one of the more open-minded individuals I've ever met. So to have that background in academia where you do have that brain smart, you got that school smart, like information. That's one of the huge benefits of your channels. The information you bring out is so very well delivered from a very educated place. But yet you still do have that open-mindedness to the whole world and universe and all the other possibilities out there, which that's why I'm super excited about you and what you're bringing to this world. Honestly, that's how I feel about it. It's a
Thank you very much. It's surprising to me, especially people that get a lot of education. Like, the main thing my education has taught me is that I know very little about almost everything. Like...
Yeah, the more you do know, like if your volume of knowledge increases this much, your view of the universe increases 10 times more. So you're endlessly trying to catch up with something that's faster than you, it seems.
And I don't because it has been my experience that a lot of people in academia are extremely arrogant, and I don't know how you end up that way, because with almost anything, like, I'm open to the strong possibility that there are important things about any topic that I don't know yet, and that could very much change my perception of that topic if I knew them. Even the things that I am most expert about, there's somebody who knows a lot of stuff that I don't know about it.
Well, I can see how it happens. It sometimes, if you know something more than somebody else, that can be a way to see yourself as better than somebody else. If you know something they don't, there are people that it takes form in that sort of personality where, like, I know more than, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, I've studied this. I know what I'm talking about. You don't. And so it can be a way to just kind of put yourself above others. It can definitely become that.
Super lame. I strive to be the opposite of that. Uneducated, ignorant, and yet arrogant as hell. That's my MO. Yeah, I go the other way. I don't want to fall into that trap. Oh, man. Okay, so usually when we kick these things off, we have a little segment called Diving Deep into the Shallow End. And we explore such unanswered questions that civilization may have had for millennia. Things like, when you drop the toast, why does it always land butter side down? Or what was our one last night?
That was the one I was thinking of.
If a reptile could talk, if your reptiles could talk, what's the weirdest story they could tell us about you?
I had a dream as a kid that could happen. I woke up so disappointed that they couldn't talk.
Oh my! Yeah, I think after the last podcast with Dave Kaufman, we're all kind of glad that they can't. Especially Brian's. What was it? A king snake that lived in your room from 7 to 21.
7 to 23, and it was a rosy rat snake. And saw lots of stuff.
There you go. Yeah. So,
I don't know what would even
because
happen during that time.
nothing formative, surely. But yeah, because you're so quick on your feet, I thought I'd put you on the spot and make you ask us the question. Dive deep in the shallow end. I just introduced the topic to you. Hit me.
Wow,
you're really ppting them on the spot there.
I did. Did you like the little video where I came in? I said, "Hey guys, so we're here at Clint's Reptiles," and I pointed the camera at him. I said, "Go." It was about half a second. He looked like a deer in the headlights.
Okay.
As much as I would hate to be in your position, I do have faith that you are capable.
Well, I've got two quick questions. Okay.
See,
they're both related to movies.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Movies are important, but what is the second best Star Wars movie and why?
The second best? I don't.
Second best? Can we go with? Oh my.
And I'm going to say this. I mean, you can qualify this in a couple of different ways. One of them is potentially it could be the second best for its time, and then it could also be the second best just period.
Okay, I'll shoot. Episode 4 is the second best.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say. I'm curious to say
that's
why.
Okay. I'm excited that you guys have.
I think that the
on
entire Star Wars trilogy hinges on episodes 4 and 5. Everything else has been like, we like this. We'd like to see more, and they've been attempting to give you more. Honestly, I think the best attempt at kind of like original Star Wars feel has been the Mandalorian, which is not even a movie. I don't know if you guys have seen that one.
I saw a little clip of it, but no, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, and it was a lot slower paced than a lot of the other Star Wars things, but Episode 5 is the best because I like a movie where all bad things happen to good people. I don't know why. And everything just continually falls apart, and then it ends, and you're like, what? That's not how movies go.
Or realistic.
I think that
Act
episode
2.
5
The whole
is
thing
that
is
way
Act 2
and is
of
the best.
three
That is
acts.
just something that goes without saying.
Everyone
Everybody
knows.
knows that. That is
Yeah.
a fact. That's not an opinion.
Yeah. And so the first, so easy. So then episode 4 would be the second best. And it was good enough to get everyone in there for the best one. And then we've been watching it for decades ever since, hoping that something would be close to one of those two.
That was pretty well formulated.
Yeah,
See?
I'm not even going to try to formulate anything like that because honestly, I just went with my gut and said episode 4 and I was just surprised. I was like, oh yeah, I guess I was right because that's what my gut said. And I've, in complete honesty, a lot of Star Wars movies have melded together into one in my mind, which is what happens with a lot of things.
What do you think about it?
Well, I think you made a really strong case, and so it's persuasive. I'm merely gonna step back to what I would have said before I heard that.
Okay.
Because I think that was pretty solid, and honestly, as a kid growing up, loving 4, 5, and 6, 5 was the best because that's a fact, and then 6 was my next favorite. 4 was my least favorite of the 3.
As a child.
Interesting. But having watched it more recently, 4 is excellent, except for how mad it makes me, because it's the one really that lays out the most about Anakin and, all that backstory. It sets up that backstory, and it's just like the people that made 1, 2, and 3 didn't even watch episode 4 before they made it. Like, they're just like, oh, I didn't even know there was a 4, 5, and 6. Are you serious? We were just, oh gosh. They just threw some names at us. Like, make sure there's a guy called Obi-Wan Kenobi. Make sure that there's an Anakin Skywalker who becomes a guy named Darth Vader.
Force, but we don't understand it, so we'll just explain it.
Yeah, explain that
randomly
away as fast as you can. Make sure you have that. And then make sure you include 2 droids that hang out with this Obi-Wan Kenobi guy all the time, because in episode 4 he's going to say he never remembers owning a droid, and neither the droids are going to be like, dude, we were with you for like 25 years. What are you talking about? So
just memory wipe. It's easy.
It filled me with rage.
I forgot about that part. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
It fills me with rage. So my second favorite one, and this is an unpopular opinion, is Rogue One. It's awesome. And this is, again, taking it out of its time, because for their time, 4, 5, and 6 are just, they're so incredible compared to like anything else that was being made, whereas Rogue One is right in line with other sci-fi movies as far as just the graphics and all that stuff. But
that's not what Star Wars is about, though. Everyone thinks it's about all that stuff.
Yeah, but it's
about characters.
It's about characters for sure, and that's one of the things that Rogue One had. The characters were great.
Yeah, I agree.
Lots of losing from the good guys. Like, the good guys, they kind of won the war, but they lost all the battles, and you lost everybody.
Yeah.
It's great. Like, they sacrificed everything to win that war, and it gives a grittiness to the rebellion, really like we'd never seen before.
What I like is that they took this one concept that there's this little hologram message, and they made a whole movie about all the people who died to get it there. So that's the great thing, is like episodes 1, 2, and 3 took away from everything else in Star Wars, like you said.
Yep.
But Rogue One added a tremendous amount of weight to something that was already weighty in the original movies.
That is so well put, because 1, 2, and 3 very much stripped away a lot of the weight from 4, 5, and 6. They took away from that. You appreciate 4, 5, and 6 more if you pretend like 1, 2, and 3 didn't happen.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. Rogue One makes you appreciate.
Heaps on.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. Absolute tension until somebody's hand gets cut off.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this was getting deep in the shallow end or shallow in the deep end. I'm not sure, because Star Wars to me has always had a deep kind of undertone. Same with like Lord of the Rings, like this battle between good and evil. It's such a deep subject.
Can I tell you some thoughts I have about the Force?
Yeah, please.
This is just I growing up, I played baseball and I was a pitcher, and one of the experiences I had was that if I threw my hardest, I could throw really hard. The most power I could throw with, but I had very little control. If I wanted control, I needed to bring back how much power I had, and then I had a lot of control. And the light side is basically all about maximum control over all your emotions, control over everything, but it doesn't have the power that the dark side has. And the dark side is just give into all of your emotions, no control. Just let out whatever you're feeling and you're going to unleash this incredible power that you might not have much control over. And anyway,
that makes the dark side sound kind of sexy. But there's actually a
it
principle
is.
behind this, and the baseball example is perfect. It's called the 85% rule. Are you guys familiar with it?
I've heard of it before, but please lay it out for me.
Well, basically they say if you go to like a top performing athlete, and you say, let's say they're running the 40-yard, dash, and you say, listen, I want you to run this fast, but not your fastest. I want you to run at 85%. Top performing athletes will actually outperform if you say, I want you to give me 110%. If you ask for 85%, they'll do better because there's not a pressure, but you're still asking for just about everything you've got, but you take a little bit of pressure off and they just do what they were made to do, and then they do it really well. And it's kind of cool, like it, because I think as an athlete, you train and you compete, and there's pressure all the time. But once you have perfected your technique and your body is trained, your mind is trained, you get that second nature flow going on, and you just let go and you give into it. That's performance. And that's what it's about. It's not about controlling the storm. It's about kind of like the calm inside the storm, letting it happen and still being cool with it.
It's interesting because it does kind of contrast the idea of letting go. The dark side being letting go of all your emotions, just letting it all happen, instead of having control, which I can definitely relate to with music wise. Like anytime we were playing a show and I was trying to play the beat and trying to keep it going, oftentimes thinking about it and like, okay, I got to hit this, like I'd start messing up and it would just happen. And the times when I played the best were when I let go and just let it happen and just like fell into it and just didn't think at all and just let it flow. And it's also making me think that maybe that's why music got a bad rap as far as being like something that led people to the dark side or was evil, because you just let go if you really get into the flow of it. And I don't know, I'm kind of speculating on that, but because there was definitely that stigma a long time for rock music, especially. Even back when 4/4 music first started coming out of the scene, 3/4 and waltzes were the thing, and 4/4 was Satan, music of Satan. It was at the time. Yeah.
So let me bring this back around to reptiles.
Yeah, thanks. That was
no, I have it. Okay, so
I think this is always about reptiles, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Searchable as.
You got Bosk.
Yeah.
Kind of a reptile guy. Carry on.
Yeah. Well, no. So one comment you'd made earlier in the day was that you had me, Brian, Dave Kaufman, Joey Muggleston sitting in the room here with you, and you said this is 4 more people than I knew in the reptile industry 10 years ago, and I grew up that way. I think you grew up that way too.
Very much so.
So you have this innate love of weird reptiles and animals and things like that. Nobody around you really understands it. So the interesting is you're growing up with, whatever your different background is, if it's Cusco with music or you with baseball or me like with horses and stuff like that, you grow up and movies. And I think I told you my dad is an animator. Mm-hmm. So you would be super jealous if I told you like we used to go to Mark Hamill's Super Bowl parties growing up and stuff like that. Yeah, so.
That is so rad.
Yeah,
because he was the Joker.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Clint Rock Slider Laidlaw, everybody. But no, so you're talking about giving in and control and all this kind of stuff. And one of the things that we used to do with horses, so I had to become, anybody that has horses or really spends time with them, grows up with them, you have to become like an animal behavioral specialist or you die.
Yeah.
Because they're just big, dumb sacks of meat with 4 hard ends and a bitey one, right? And especially if you do like what we used to do, or I don't know, are you familiar with Mustang competitions?
Familiar with Mustangs. What makes a Mustang competition?
Well, so Mustang competition is all about horsemanship, right? It's like how connected you are with your animal.
Is this when you get a Mustang?
Yeah, you go catch a wild horse
okay.
that's never seen a human, and you have 3 months basically to train it, and then you compete against other people who did the same, and we see who has the greatest bond with this large, dangerous wild animal.
I did this once.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yep.
You got
Just
a Mustang
randomly?
and trained it? And
I didn't even train it. I just jumped on it and rode it.
Oh.
I'm not even joking.
That's okay. That's more cowboy than horseman, I think.
Oh, yeah. No, I have no training.
Yeah, no.
So neither of you were trained.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But
It was amazing experience.
Yeah, that's kind of me with that crocodile in that pit. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Let me touch him. Ah, he's trying to eat
It saved
me.
my life. I was trying to see where you were going because you started with not knowing anybody in the reptile industry until, having all this in the
So
room.
we all have our different backgrounds, and then we bring whatever our background information is into the way that we deal with reptiles. So my favorite thing about reptiles is taking an animal, like my best moments, and I've shared some of my best reptile moments with you recently, Cusco, but my best moments with reptiles is when I could have kind of a connection with them. And I realized, and this is why my preference in life has always been large or dangerous reptiles, like venomous stuff and crocodilians have always been my favorite. They're just not practical to like keep, So, I love the fact when I can sit down and have a connection with an animal and form a bond of trust with an animal that most people don't even look at long enough to understand what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there having emotional or spiritual connection with the thing, And so that is why I started free handling rattlesnakes when I was 13. And to do it, you're talking about sport. By the way, guys, that was really stupid. I was a dumb 13-year-old. And you don't want to do the things I did to my young body. But
or ride horses.
Yeah. So, but no, what I used to do, one of my favorite things to do was to go get the orneriest snakes, which we got to do at TSK earlier today. I was like, give me your big mean bulls and
check out his nose.
Yeah.
And what happened to your arm here?
I don't know. I saw that one. Something scratched me, but I don't know what.
That must have been a tegu.
I don't know what it is. I have no clue. Anyway, all I know is I'm suing Clint's reptile room for this one.
Makes sense.
I know Clint is willing to do dangerous stuff for reptiles. I mean, he almost died on a cliff.
That's true.
in a search of reptiles.
There was no reptiles involved in that entire herping trip.
The idea, there was the idea of reptiles was there. The idea was certainly there.
Yeah.
And the pursuit.
Yeah, but my theory as a young kid was just because a snake had venom didn't mean it wanted to use it on you. And so I could take a snake like a carpet python that would bite anybody else, and I'd hold it for a long time, not get bit. So I'd practice on non-venomous animals, really paying attention to them and trying to calm them in my presence like I would a wild horse or anything else. They're fearful of you, so they're 110% attention on you. And so you actually have a pretty unique opportunity in that moment to try to communicate cross species to an animal and understand them where they're coming from and get them to understand where you're coming from. So, free handling the venomous rattlesnakes was just what we had when I grew up. But I loved finding wild rattlesnakes and trying to pick them up and calm them down, and then walk around with them for 45 minutes or whatever and not get bit. And that was super fun for me because I was like, see, I can do it. You know what I mean? Obviously, you're tempting fate, and that's stupid. And I was stupid. And,
you are an incredible brand of human, as your stories are also quite
ignorant, arrogant,
incredible.
Incredible. Give me a rattlesnake. I'll show you wrong right now.
I know.
Surprise.
I'm down, baby. That was kind of fun because I came from like a animal training and behaviorist type of a background, so I bring that perspective to my reptile keeping, which is I think that's why people like those videos where I'm getting bit by stuff and I'm like, it's okay, she just doesn't understand right now, but we're about to communicate what's really going on. Let's watch her change her disposition. You know what I mean? They like those videos and stuff that I do. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I think Cusco's thing is just like sitting down and tripping out with the reptiles all the time. Like, oh, it's you and me sharing this space in the universe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think about it in that voice, but
yes, you do. That's the voice.
I've ever heard you do.
Yes, thank you. You can't lie to us, Cusco. We're on a podcast with your voice. Everyone's hearing you.
Space in the universe.
Just share the space in the universe with the snake right now. Me and the snake are one.
I mean, you guys probably did notice me on the couch there, and although maybe that is what it looked like, my voice sounded like while I was sitting there with your false water cobra. I was definitely connecting with it. We had a little moment there.
Yep. That's it.
I still don't think that's what my voice sounded like in my own head.
Well, you're going to have to record the voice in your head sometime and play it back to you so you know.
All right. I'll try that.
But I don't know, what do you bring to the table, Clint, with reptiles? I mean, we know very little about you. You got your baseball history, but what's your approach? I mean, you have the academia background, which is, I think, very different from anyone else on YouTube right now.
It is different.
I mean, there are people who have like biology degrees and stuff like that are into reptiles, but
that is true. None of them have YouTube channels.
Doesn't Barczyk have a
PhD?
Doesn't he?
I don't think
In
so.
biology. I'm pretty sure he does.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll have to ask him. I don't recall that.
Yeah, I think he does. You guys comment
No,
comment
no.
below. Oh, wait, no, that doesn't
You
work.
can comment below. This is
yeah.
one on YouTube.
This
too,
one's
but
on the video.
I don't think so. I think you're wrong. I recall watching
could
this
be wrong.
show called Snake Bites.
I make
when
a lot
I
of
first moved
stuff
back
up.
from Hawaii, and I feel like in the intro every time was said, "I'm no zoologist." I'm pretty sure.
I think that is part of the intro to Snake
Yeah.
Bites.
I don't know. You have to
I'm
ask
just
him.
a guy
Here's,
who
buddy.
with a
Go
real
ask him.
passion for reptiles and something like that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he has a PhD in biology.
I think that you don't know what you're talking about, but that's just my opinion.
Obviously, very possible.
Call him up.
But I want to know, like, what's kind of your perspective on this kind of stuff? Like, what do reptiles do for you, and what do you do for them? You know?
That's a great question. So, one interesting thing is, my undergraduate, I majored in zoology and biology, and during my whole time getting a degree in zoology, I didn't meet anybody who liked reptiles or actually animals at all as much as I did. Like I just, all my
I was
life.
like, all my teachers in high school hated children. What's up with that? But anyway, continue.
Well, all my life I was into animals. I mean, even as a little kid, 2-3 years old, there was some animal show on PBS that was like the main thing I wanted to watch. I always wanted, documentaries on Discovery before there was Animal Planet. When Animal Planet came out, it was like the greatest thing ever because I just occasionally catch them. Like that's what I wanted to watch. I didn't really read novels. I read zoo books and eventually Reptiles magazine and like my field guide to North American reptiles and amphibians. Like that's what I read all the time. I just wanted to know about animals and reptiles in particular, especially once I got to a point where I realized I'll probably never see a dinosaur. It's like, all right, well,
I haven't given up hope. I haven't given up hope.
I'm actually more optimistic about it now than I was 20 years ago.
Good for you. You hang on to that.
But
The force be with you.
Thank you, and also with you. This is so my zoology degree was interesting because it, except for there was only really one thing that I learned in my undergraduate that I wasn't at least somewhat aware of already because of just always being fascinated with animals. And honestly, I know a lot of little animal facts, and most of them have nothing to do with my formal education. My
Zoo books for the win.
zoo books for the win, for real, and just a lifelong passion for learning about animals. My advanced degrees have been great because really my undergraduate didn't even teach me how to be a scientist. I just memorized a whole bunch of stuff. My advanced degrees are what actually turned me into a scientist in the way that I think and actually doing real science. And I think the main thing that actually helps me to do, I mean, obviously, I try to add a lot of really cool stuff to our videos that, you normally wouldn't know. They're things that I teach when I teach biology, things like that. But also, it's helped me with my ability to evaluate sources. And so when I give information, like when I'm doing my own research, it's pretty easy for me to pick out stuff that's just totally bogus and not spread.
You've been calling me on it all weekend.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And I feel bad, but at some point it's like you can't just let it go if he's going to be broadcasting it out there.
No, we have a whole segment on our Patreon for it. It's called Humble Hardle. So
yes,
you should get in touch with Jessica.
It's
You'd
short.
be good at that.
But
no, humble as a verb, like help us humble Hardle.
Gotcha.
Deflate his head a little
Gotcha. Does it work?
No.
It's just started. It's not.
So far no effect.
It's a pretty futile.
Around the time we find the dinosaurs.
But honestly, like it's been a thing with this channel is like this is my passion as a hobbyist, but I'm not even close to the greatest reptile expert that I know. I'm not the greatest reptile expert in this room right now. Like, but I do feel like I know a lot about how much I don't know, and I try to, and I feel like I've worked hard to become a good educator, and I don't try to teach people things I don't know, or that I can't teach them with some level of confidence. And they, people know that they always get sincerity and honesty from me, as far as what I actually understand. As far as my personal love for reptiles, I've thought a lot about that, because I think there are people that love reptiles in really different ways. There are people that love reptiles like they would love a child, sort of, and that's not me. I think when I was younger, I had that view a little bit more, but I think some of it is becoming like an evolutionary ecologist and viewing things more on a population level than an individual level has changed a little bit. Like I can handle the fact that some individuals in a population die and things like that, and it doesn't devastate me in the way that it did when I was younger. And I don't want to dote on them and treat them like a child and dress them up and call them cute names. And like, there are people that do that, and if that leads to them having a great relationship with animals and the wild, like, that's great, but that's not me.
Well, but you do have animals here that have names.
Oh, so I like giving them names more than anything, because it helps other people connect to them.
Which is what we actually mentioned when you were talking about the super dwarf that you have with me earlier. Like, we need to give it a name because it's such a connective animal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And especially people that are averse to snakes, the right name, all of a sudden they're like, oh, well.
Buttercup.
Yeah, Buttercup. I can't hate Buttercup. And that's not why she got that name. I named her that before I started doing outreach with her.
Did you ever hear the story of my daughter's scorpion and its name?
No.
No? I'll talk to you later. But she has an African emperor scorpion named I Love You. Yeah.
See, that's great.
Yeah.
Then my hognose over there, his name is Shovelface.
Makes sense.
People like that, Yeah. And Buttercup, her name is Buttercup. She's got a black mask, so I wanted to name her Wesley from The Princess Bride. But she turned out to be a female, so I named her Buttercup. Then I got another one, guaranteed male, named it Wesley, also a female. So I wound up with female Wesley anyway. And now I have a male. He's Inigo Montoya.
Uh-huh.
And that's the group. But
Prepare to die.
yeah, that is exactly right. And but what I've kind of, and I'm still wrapping my brain around it, but it's very similar to what you were describing. It's like, I like having that connection with them, especially to the point where they can relax in your presence, to the point that they start acting naturally in your presence.
Right. That was the alligator laying down and basking with me experience.
Right.
Yeah. All of a sudden, then you start learning things about the psychology of these animals, the behavior of these animals that maybe nobody's ever observed before.
Exactly. That's even if it's not a behavioral study or something that's scientifically significant, just the personality of the animal or its spirit or whatever, if you will, being able to see that when other people can't.
Yes.
And there's things about like the scaly outside drives people away, but that there's more inside of that animal. That's so exactly cool.
Right. And I don't love interacting with the really dangerous ones necessarily, but like one of them that was. You can watch it in our video on these, because I don't get these out to handle them that often, but I did for this video. Is when I got the neon day geckos out. I was handling those when we filmed our video, and I'm just having a moment. Like it's just like soul to soul connection. Those geckos were so relaxed.
That's
and
weird.
I do the same thing with my morning geckos.
Yeah, that's pretty strange.
They're all super relaxed. I can get those out. And they'll hop from hand to hand and stuff. Even if they hop away from me, like they're not afraid. They go nowhere. I can just scoop them back up again, and
that's pretty bizarre. It's for that species.
Oh yeah, and it's so special. And I'll go out in the field and sort of like you were doing with the false water cobra. I can get a wild lizard, and usually like it'll just sit on my hand and run up on my shoulder and hang out, and it'll be there. We can go on a walk, and it'll just stay there, and you just have this connection with them.
It's almost like a little bit of magic. It's like getting a little touch of magic.
My wife and my friend Kevin, who's my first ever reptile friend, with whom I go herping a lot, she's like, I think you guys have it too. It's like you're a lizard whisperer. Like they just relax, and it's insane. Like I don't know why, and I can't tell them either, but like I feel it. Mm-hmm. Like I can feel that connection with them. I feel like I can feel it, and they seem to respond as though they can feel it. But talking to you guys and being with you guys.
Tom Selleck defined it with horses. He said you communicate to them through your butt. You should try it with reptiles. That might work.
I did that earlier. Remember?
That's true. The Tiid.
Yeah. We were catching the Tiid. Yeah.
That's very true. That's very true.
And who was it that reached up the hole in your pants to grab it off of your butt?
That was
That'd
Clint.
be me.
Wow.
was-
Did you guys have a moment?
In the pursuit of a lizard,
I feel
I
like
fear no obstacle.
I feel like
As
Clint-
you know,
Oh, yeah.
I will slide down a mountain.
Oh, yeah.
I will reach
Yeah.
into anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? I will
Literally anywhere.
I will reach
Pucker up,
under.
Brian.
Yeah, I will reach under the buttocks of a man who hasn't showered in days.
I don't know if you realized this at the time either, but that day I actually ripped a large hole in those pants. I showed in the video afterwards, but there's a huge.
He was waiting for the
gaping
lizard to
hole.
literally be inside of his pants.
Yeah.
And
I think
Where do you think I got it?
I think
yeah,
you and I also
I actually
had a
thought
moment.
that you did until this moment. I was like, wait, he reached up inside your pants from underneath. You know,
Yeah.
you guys on the podcast know what I'm talking about. That little seam that goes right across, right underneath, in that sweet spot.
Yeah.
That's where
No,
the lizard went.
I felt up in there. Lizard wasn't there.
Oh man, oh, I feel so emasculated right now.
Okay,
Which is
shh.
good. It's good. It's good. I've been working on battling back my ego a little bit. Now.
Yeah, you're of a massive ego. Yeah,
It comes out from time and time again.
you're definitely one of the more humble and just good-hearted people I've ever met. So
He's talking to Brian, everybody.
yeah, no,
you can't
yeah, no. I hope I didn't think there'd be any confusion. Like if they never watched this before ever, you said there were 2 other episodes. That should be plenty.
The truth. Oh, the truth is so good to hear. When he was talking to you earlier, like one of my fears about having guests on this podcast was like, I was like, are we going to be able to have a guest and allow them to speak, or are we going to listen to Garrett speak?
You know
to
why
our
he says
guest the
that's
whole
because I
time?
like to interrupt and talk over
like
people. all
that
the
right
time.
there. Just interrupt you. Like
It's only because there's not very much capacity.
Lord, I'm going to take the mic away from
In
you
my
and beat
brain.
you with your head.
I have to get it out or I'll forget. I did really good with Dave. Did you notice me writing things down? I was like, I have a thought. I better write it down so I don't have to say it while Dave is talking.
We're working on it. It's a process to have a guest and allow other people to speak from time to time. It's one part of the humbling Hartle process. So
I like to listen too. So
yeah, me too.
all is well.
I learn more that way.
Oh yeah.
I do too, but that's how I stay ignorant. You know,
That's good. That's good.
my MO. Stay ignorant and arrogant. If I listen too much, I start to learn. That's no good.
I
doesn't work
totally
for
understand. When I was learning Spanish, I met somebody who'd been learning Spanish for a lot less time than I had. And at one point he used a vocabulary word that I didn't know. And I started to feel like, oh man, why does he know more Spanish than I do when he's just starting? And I eventually realized that he doesn't know more Spanish than I do. There's a lot of words I know that he doesn't. He just happens to know that one thing that I don't. But for a while, like that was really hard on my pride. And so that's why, like, if you leave the door open for people to say anything, they might say something you don't know, and you got to deal with that. And it's much better.
Have you ever
Excellent strategy, sir. Excellent strategy.
Have you ever seen that? There's this guy JP Sears. He does these.
Yeah.
I feel like you almost became him there for a second. That was really good. If you listen too much to other people, you might learn something, and then you're gonna have to deal with that. You don't want to do that. That's bad.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Oh man, I'm really happy. I'm really happy to be here, man. I'm happy to just you've surprised me a lot. You've surprised me a lot.
That's
this
been a
week
great
in a really
trip.
good way. Like, and it's I don't know. I can't really say enough about it. I don't want to say too much because I'm gonna get all sappy. Garrett's gonna start making fun of me, and I'm gonna start dealing with it. but it is true. I'm really happy with the person you are. It's been a blessing in my life this week to have met you and known you this much better from this trip, because I think that what you're doing for Reptiles is phenomenal, and B, you're the right person to do it, and you have the capacity for your intelligence and your knowledge to not overshadow it with this I know it all, and quite the opposite, or the humbleness that we're trying to get into Garrett. Like you just have it.
Yeah,
You're
it's
able
not
to
here
be,
with me.
to be humble, as even though you have enough knowledge and experience, and you've accomplished enough to where I've seen people do that and they lose the endearing quality that I find in people, which is to be open to possibilities and not close things out and let their ego get in the way of what could be a really great thing. So But just keep that up, and I think we're gonna. I think we've got a great resource in Clint Laidlaw here in the reptile world.
Clint Rock Slider Laidlaw.
Yeah.
Got my new name. We'll put it up at the beginning of every video. Clint Rock Slider.
Rock Slider Laidlaw.
That's really kind of you, though, Brian. Like, it has honestly been just phenomenal to get to know both of you. Like what was it? Probably 3-4 months ago. I don't know. All of a sudden, I was watching one of your, just a short video of you singing a song on Facebook, and I'd kind of been thinking it for a while, but I'm like, I got to be friends with Brian in real life. Like, it's obvious he's just one of the best guys you're ever going to meet.
That's actually how we met.
And so I was just I contacted Dave. I'm like, can I get Brian's contact information? And he's like, yeah, I give it out to everybody. And so I gave you a call and we talked for, I don't know, a couple hours.
Yeah.
And it was just great. You just have a good soul. And to be perfectly honest, like I found Garrett a little bit intimidating. Just because you're competent, and there are people in my life that I have known for a lot longer, and they're so competent and confident, right? The combination of those two things, not arrogant, just because I think arrogant.
Are we still talking about me?
Yeah, well,
I had the exact same kind of reaction with him when we first met. I told him about it many times. Like I've talked with him about it. I was like, I was so intimidated by you, like by your knowledge and your confidence in your knowledge. It was very intimidating to me.
Exactly.
That's so weird. Isn't it would seem weird now?
No, it doesn't seem weird because he's saying it, and that's exactly how I felt.
But why is that?
Well, I don't have that confidence in my knowledge, right? I'll tell you what I understand, and there's a reason that I will tell you. Like if I don't know something about something, I know I don't know it. But I could know something that's wrong, right? And so if I'm like, I think this is the way it is, and you're like, no, it's not, I'd be like, okay. And
I don't know why that is. I just feel like I'm a goober all the time.
And maybe we all feel that way a lot more than people realize.
I suppose.
But you come across as somebody not only, you're confident in your knowledge, but you're also right an awful lot of the time. I've never known you to be wrong about stuff. I'm sure you are from time to time because we all are.
At least 50-50.
Yeah. That's. Yeah. I mean, what more could somebody hope? And so that was a little bit intimidating. And I'll be honest, like it was when you were telling us about you're just before you met your wife, but that one of the things that was the most important to you in the world was to be a dad, to be a father and raise an awesome family. I didn't understand that about you as being like a key part of who you were, and all of a sudden it was like there's a lot more to Garrett than I would have dreamed, because there are a lot of people who genuinely are confident and competent. They're like that because that's everything to them. That's the only thing they know anything about, and so they are the expert. But there's like this whole giant other side to you. And then, as I got to know you more over the weekend, like our climb up into the deadly heights.
That was the highlight of my weekend, actually.
That might have been mine as well. And, and it was just fun hanging out and like getting to know you, and like you're just a good guy that's fun to be around.
We ogres have layers.
Yes, like onions.
It should be the highlight. It should be the highlight of your weekend because you came away with it with your life.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Yeah.
We had to test our mettle a little bit.
Yeah. Should I? Yeah, absolutely. And we saw some things. We didn't see the things we were hoping to see. We saw things we didn't even dream would be up there.
We were geeking out about lichen.
Yes, we were big time.
I really get along with you so well because I don't know. We might be very different personalities, but we're both. You even said it on the phone. You're like, "Oh, this is going to be such a nerdy weekend if you come," and it ended up being that way.
It was. I hadn't set my expectations high enough.
Yeah, it is the differences. The differences that I enjoy in people. I don't know a whole lot of people like me, and that's maybe because I don't really have anything to gain from somebody who's just like me, and that's not as enjoyable to just.
Is there anybody just like you?
Maybe not. I don't know. I feel like maybe there is, and I just would, if I found them, I would. I'd be like, no, that's not going to work out.
We've already got one of those.
Yeah, we got one right now. We have to go find some other group where we don't have one of me already.
Enough room in this town for the two of us.
You'd both be too pleasant to say that to each other.
That's possible.
So you'd be together and you'd both hate it, but you're just
both think, I really want that guy to go, but we're just going to keep jamming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is true. If I really don't like somebody, I generally don't give them any time of day to the most of my ability. But just like, okay, well,
yeah.
Like, are you still over there? I'm gonna go over here.
Honestly, like I find it very difficult to be mean to somebody. Like I would have to really put some effort into it to be genuinely.
I think if you find someone that intimidates you and is confident, you're okay with it. I've noticed that.
Well, there are people who I've known who have really done me wrong, right?
Okay.
Like and at some point I've just sort of decided like I'm just not going to have any more conversations with this person, right? Like I'm
sorry, Dad.
Yeah, I'll be cordial with them. Like I'm not gonna ignore them or act like anything's seriously wrong. I'm just gonna kind of, because anytime I've had a conversation, like they've used it to stab me in the back.
Yeah.
So it's like I've learned I have to stop, and so I have to be deliberate about it, because if people are really really mean to me and then they just stop being mean to me, I'm pretty much great with them afterward. And it's like sometimes you gotta let somebody stop stabbing you. Like I just can't let you stab me in the back.
That was definitely one of the most kindest ways to approach it. You just got to let somebody stop stabbing you. Like, don't stop them. Just let them stop. No, but I understand what you're saying, because I've let myself be a punching bag at times too. So I can relate to that type of sentiment. But like you said, just don't still be cordial, and just choose to not let them be a part of your life as much as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. I like being a jerk, that would like for real, that would take some
energy. And
you take a lot of energy, and it's just gonna wreck you.
Right.
It's not that big a deal.
There's a lot of I wish more people had that type of outlook, but I do recognize that the people that don't have that outlook are there for me to appreciate the people that do.
Yeah.
I really do.
Okay, Brian, can I talk just a tiny little bit of shop with Clint? A tiny bit. I'm going to let him talk it. I'm not going to talk.
I don't want to hear anything about business. We've heard enough about business from you.
Not from Clint.
Hold on. First, okay. Say whatever you want, Hartle. I don't care anymore.
Yes, he's finally been worn down. This is what happens when the unstoppable force meets the
That's how you got your
immovable wall. I move him.
Okay. I'm going to cover up your microphone. One of the other things that really impresses me about you, I know I've said a lot of things that impress me about you, but it's just true. So I can't help it. Your ability to...
I feel like I'm watching a speed dating episode.
No, your ability to...
This is an hour and a half long date. Are you kidding?
Be open.
After the end of a weekend of...
To successfully debate, like even through text, which is one of the most difficult ways to debate, but I've seen you do it and present ideas that people disagree with, but be able to present it in a way that, for me, I'm like, yeah, how could you not agree with, even if you disagree, how could you not agree with that? Because you're able to see the other person, like where the opposing side, where the good points from the opposing side are. And I know we've had this conversation before, but still, I just kind of want you to talk about how you're able to do that so successfully, especially something like teaching evolutionary biology while being a religious man at the same time, and possibly teaching that to religious people, like how you're able to do that successfully, because I assume you do.
Oh yeah, well that actually shaped a lot of the research I did, and I'm continuing to do, was the fact that like I was doing my graduate work at a religious institution, and so I would TA at times, being an assistant to a professor. I'd TA for other instructors, and they'd be teaching general biology, and it was like a war. And I graded the tests, and students would be writing all kinds of snarky answers. Like, when you're writing a snarky answer on a test, like, you either really hate doing well in a class, or you're really, really adamant about your position on something. And, there was students would storm out of the room. And that was, like, when they lightly touched on evolution. Well, like, my master's is all evolutionary ecology. Like, that's what I know. Evolution is what I really like in biology, largely because it affects everything, and my interests are very, very broad. And so, like, all of life is under this umbrella. And it's always made sense to me, which is interesting because I actually spent my entire undergraduate studying zoology and biology with an emphasis in evolution, all the while because I had just recently become religious, all the while assuming that meant that I couldn't accept evolution. And so, but I'm taking evolution courses. I'm like, man, this makes a lot of sense. Hard to believe it's not true, but I guess it's not. Oh well. And you know, it wasn't until later that I found out that, like, there's actually no issue with evolution in my particular religion, but most people in my religion don't know that. In studies, like, they are some of the lowest in acceptance of evolution. Well, I started teaching my class, and it's like, I cover natural selection on the first day of class that we're actually talking about biology, and then, the whole class is about evolution, all of it. Never a problem. I had one student who'd kind of look at me like every now and then, and that was it. That was the whole of my problem. I graded all the tests, nothing. You know, it was just never a problem. And so I'm like, why?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
Why? What am I doing? And that's why I was teaching, and I taught. I would teach 5 or 6 sections a day, back to back to back to back to back. And I would teach them, and I would essentially take out some of the more conspicuous things that I did differently from the other professors to try to figure out, like, essentially try to break my class. Like, find a section where I don't have that.
Find your limits somewhere.
Every way I taught it, they were great. And I could quantify it. Their acceptance went way up of evolution. Every way I taught it. You know, and so I'm like, why? What am I doing? You know, and so that's actually a question I'm still addressing, but it's
maybe just let it happen. Maybe let's not figure out what it is. Just, if it's working, and then you're applying it now to reptiles for people. Let's just keep it going.
Well, you know, and I think one of the things, I think this is where I've landed, that I think is the biggest thing is, I feel like I'm more approachable than a lot of university instructors as far as I'm one of you guys. Instead of, I think a lot of faculty will sometimes try to set themselves apart from their students as being something else. And human psychology is really, really powerful, that you are exceptionally skeptical of ideas that come from outside of your perceived in-group, and really, really accepting, unreasonably accepting of ideas that come from within your in-group. And so I think one of the things that I did in all those classes, and it wasn't something I'm doing deliberately, I think it is just kind of the way I approach it, is I'm not much of a person to other people. You know, like, they're part of my group, right? We are talking about this. We, you know, it's all inclusive, and I think that's major. But the other thing is, you know, I'm interested in talking about controversial topics basically across the board, really controversial topics. And I don't often have really strong opinions on controversial topics because I'm interested in understanding both sides' arguments. And one of the reasons I engage in a lot of these conversations, even like on social media and stuff, is because I imagine if I'm feeling pretty strongly about one side of an argument, but it's controversial, like, obviously other people are feeling very strongly for reasons I might not understand.
Oh, for sure.
And I genuinely want to know, like, why. What are your reasons? What are your best arguments? I don't want to tear them down. Like, I don't want to be arguing against a straw man version of what you think. Like, why really do you feel this way? And, you know, at the end of the day, where I usually land is like, I feel, my personal opinion is this, but I totally see why they're over here on this. And so I'm not really hardcore one way or the other about it. And, like, when's
the last time that you had, because I like your approach, you know what I mean, as far as being not afraid of necessarily being confrontational in the search of truth.
Yes.
Right? Because if you're wrong on some point, it'd be great to know, because then you can correct and change,
yes.
Right? So when's the last time you really, like, you got floored and had to change the way you think foundationally about something?
All the time.
Yeah? Like, do you have any good ones where, where
Well-
you basically came into an argument or discussion on one side of the table and somebody presented you with something where you're like,
Oh, well,
Huh.
I am very easily persuaded by evidence. And so this is just one that comes to mind, but one of them was about whether or not selectively bred organisms would count as being a GMO. When we talk about GMOs on products and stuff like that, we're almost always talking about transgenic organisms.
right. But if you look at something like corn, it's very much unlike its natural ancestors, even if you look at corn from 500 years ago.
Absolutely. And the genetics have been modified deliberately by humans.
Sure.
And so, it is, I apologize for this. Let me get rid of that. It is absolutely a GMO by the, and all that really mattered there was what is the definition of a GMO that we're
Right. You're
using.
arguing semantics.
It's an argument of semantics, but once somebody can provide me with a good source showing that this is the definition, it's like, okay, great, that's the definition. And I have things like that happen all the time. I'm trying to think, as far as things that I do feel very, very strongly about, I feel like we need to be allowed to have freedom of speech, which includes saying things that are highly objectionable. That needs to be allowed, because otherwise people are going to have these terrible ideas and they're never going to hear the reasons why they're terrible ideas. They just know they're being oppressed out of being able to speak them.
I 100% agree that freedom of speech is a big one for me. I think people should be allowed to say whatever they want to say, however they want to say it.
And there might be consequences, right? Like if you're saying things that obviously you're just a horrendous person. Well, okay, I think
people
there should be
don't
stages.
go watch your movie anymore,
Yeah.
and then you cry about it.
Well, I think stage one would be to make sure that they're informed why that idea is terrible. Right? Like maybe it's just out of ignorance that they're saying this thing that is really objectionable. Right? So thing number one, they should be informed why that is a bad idea. And if they're still like, yeah, I don't even care, I stand by that 100%, then it's like, yeah, maybe I don't want to associate with you or support what you're doing.
But at least you get to know where they're coming from. If you beat down freedom of speech enough, then you don't get to know they hide in a little dark corner and just come out and surprise you sometimes.
So yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And now it's really easy to find an echo chamber about anything. Like that. That's why reptile YouTube is a thing. Is because none of us, we grew up, we didn't know anybody like us. Turns out though, on Earth, quite a few people quite a bit like us. And now it's really easy to find the people that are just like you, no matter how rare you are. And if you have really horrible ideas, and you know that the only people you can speak to about them are the people that also have those really horrible ideas, and they're like, no, you're spot on about this. You're so right. We're all right. It's just a big conspiracy. Like that's the worst. That's the worst thing that can happen. And so I think that's really important. And then the other thing is I think we need to be able to have polite discourse, which is really, really related. But if somebody says something really objectionable, instead of just being like, you're the worst, everybody, the worst, he's the worst, right? And we see this a lot in the reptile community, right? You say something about care, and you're like, oh, no, you are a bad person.
I think it's something that happens in all communities.
Yes,
right now.
it is. It's a shocking thing to me. In the reptile community, it makes some sense to me because at least an animal might be suffering. It wasn't until my friend Kevin, who's all way into reptile, he was my first ever reptile friend, right? We already talked about him. He's also into Warhammer 40K.
Is that a video game?
It's a tabletop.
That's the board game.
Oh, okay.
Painted.
I always want
game.
somebody who's really good at that to like do all my landscapes in my terrariums.
Yes.
That would be cool.
Well,
Go ahead. Anyways.
if you say something, that you say something controversial in Warhammer 40K, you'll get shredded in just the same way. Like it's just people who get really strong opinions about their hobbies. And the fact that an animal might be suffering is probably really just an excuse for you to go ballistic on somebody who you would have gone ballistic no matter what the heck you were talking about.
Yeah.
But now I can justify it because I'm saving the animal. Are you? Are you? Or are you just yelling at a guy who had a question or said something wrong and now he's never going to talk to anyone about reptiles again?
Yep.
And so, we need to have the patience to inform people and have discussions and explain to people why they're wrong if they're wrong and be open to the possibility that you're the one that's wrong, which it's
hard for people.
That's a difficult mindset to have.
It is.
And the easiest way is just never to let them talk.
Yes.
To avoid that
Yes, that's
that
what I do.
possibility. Yes, that's And that's good. Like that.
Actually, I might have.
You were doing really good about it, right? I'm impressed.
No, that
with
was
you
impressive.
Right now. I'm super impressed with you right
He
now.
was talking. I was interested in what he was saying. Maybe you should try a little harder, Brian. Let's go.
Can we just say something interesting every now and then?
Maybe with this guest's idea is a good idea.
I'd like to let you speak. Now you were trying to bulldoze me, so I was like, no, I'm going to bulldoze you. But now I'd like to let you. You wanted to talk some shop, and I'm
No,
curious.
That was good. Crap, I had a retort or a question or something.
I thought that was the question.
No, I forget what it is. Oh, yeah, it's not that good of a. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So here's my question. You ready? Topic shift.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you're in a position with this place that we are sitting right now in Clint's Reptile Room, right? Which is super cool place to be doing a location sponsor. That was unsponsored, but that's okay. You're in a position where, like, my younger sister, she opened a retail store right at the onset of the shutdown for COVID-19. Not an easy place to be.
No.
She'd spent her life savings on this, spent months in preparation, so many plans. And the hardest part sometimes is just like the mental and emotional momentum that you have to jump into something like this, because it's such an amazingly huge obstacle. I mean, there's a reason why people don't all do this. Everyone wants to do this. How come you're the one that does and everyone else doesn't? It's because it's ridiculously hard, and you've got to be in the right place for that. Okay, so here's my question. You've done that. The place is open. You've shared with us how you've, received like a wealth of community support, which is fantastic, but I guess I just want to know, how are you okay right now? You know what I mean? What gets you through? What's kind of your thought process where you wake up, you have this stuff, you're trying to go full time. The YouTube thing has kind of exploded, right? And not undeservedly. I think everything that you're doing is great, but perhaps a bit unexpectedly from whatever your original ideas were or whatever, right? And it's giving you this opportunity to even think about, like, could I actually do this? And I was there with the super dwarfs. I mean, I'm working with like a basically valueless niche species, right? And I didn't think it would ever work, but eventually you got to this point where you're like, oh, I just do what I like for the sake of it, and I don't know what's gonna happen. And then you get to this point where you're like, this is actually working, right? And then you take this huge step, and now, boom, big, drawback, big letdown. I think all of us that have businesses or really just anything that we're investing our life into have had these major setbacks. Like, we had an incubator fail at our place this year. I lost 5 clutches of some of the most important breeding. Some of them were literally like life goal. I mean, our friend Forrest Fanning passed away earlier this year.
I'm sorry.
What?
That's how your question.
Because I asked a question and then I talked for 15
minutes. Here's my question. I'd breed super dwarfs.
That's not a question.
It's not a question.
I'm setting the mood. I'm trying to say, like, you have to get through this thing. I think a lot of our listeners have gone through similar things. So I'm impressed by your ability to keep on keeping on. How do you do it?
That's a good question. I mean,
long but good. Yes. Thank you. Continue.
It's been interesting. I am not a person that tends to quit on things that I put effort in and I believe in. But I'll be honest, there was a time not very long ago when I was thinking, I've got to start considering at what point do I throw in the towel on this. And I hated the thought of that. The thing is, big picture, I believe in this. I'm scared about what the next 6 months look like. And it wasn't, I mean, at all stages of this project, it has been because of the support of our community that it's happened and that it's continued on. And so I am so thankful for that. So I feel like there's been a lot of people that have stood under me to lift me up as this whole project has gone on. And the reality is, I mean, we've sunk a lot of our savings into it just to keep it alive while we wait for things to change. And I don't know how long it'll be before we can really open our doors up to large groups of people coming through here that we would need to keep this going. But what's been incredible just for us in the short term is we've had these face-to-face chats where our fans sign up and I talk to them. A lot of them don't even own reptiles, which is just so cool. They don't own reptiles. They're interested in reptiles. They love them. They're like, in a few years, I'm going to be in a place where I can get one. I love the responsibility that these people have taken, that they're like, I recognize that I'm not in a place where I can handle it right now, but I'm going to be prepared, and then I'm going to do it right. But that's
kind of what this place is, right? It's allowing people to live vicariously through the efforts that you're doing without having to put that much effort.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to be a really, really special place. Unlike anywhere I've really been, but a place that I want to go. And I guess that's sort of how our channel is too. Is like it was a resource that I didn't have that I wanted, and this is a place I would have dreamed to go. Even though it's not like it's going to have the craziest reptiles I've ever seen, or anything like that. It's an experience that hopefully is life changing. And I got to experience that a little bit myself actually when I was at Nerd, and I was handling the king cobras. I told this story before, but.
Not on this podcast.
Not on this podcast. Well, so going into sports, I've all my life been a fan of the Kansas City Chiefs, and they've never even been to a Super Bowl in my lifetime. And they made it this year. And the week before the Super Bowl, I woke up that Sunday morning and I just had this
knot in your stomach.
It's like almost excitement, but kind of dread. Oh my gosh, it's a week from today. It's gonna be the day. Well, the week before Super Bowl Sunday, in fact, Super Bowl, I watched the Super Bowl on the plane flying back from Nerd. So we went to Nerd. And the Saturday night before Super Bowl Sunday, that's when I held king cobras for the first time, and I held Lilith. And the morning of the Super Bowl, I woke up and I couldn't go back to sleep. And I was just so excited. And I couldn't even think about football. All I was excited about was the experience I'd had with the king cobras. And, I was realizing that was a genuinely fairly dangerous experience.
Sure.
But it was also something I never thought I'd do. It pushed me outside of my comfort zone, and I had an amazing experience with an animal I never thought I'd experience.
Because large, venomous, and crocodilians are the best.
Absolutely.
Continue.
And I realized, that is how a lot of people feel when I do an outreach program. They've never touched a snake before. They're scared to death. They touch Buttercup.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Buttercup. I'm more concerned about being attacked by my mother than I am about Buttercup. She's the nicest snake in the world, but to them it's
it's like you with the king cobra.
It is, yeah.
And you're bringing it every day.
And that is the experience people have. Like I get done, and like when I do a paid reptile program, which is what we're going to be doing a lot out of here to keep this place alive, I often feel like I'm what am I even showing them that's worth this? What they're putting forward, and they're always so dang excited about what they got.
There's so much more to this space too than the animals that you have in here. There really is. There's the vibe in here. I'm very sensitive to spaces and moving into spaces. The fact that you had a piano in here when I first walked in, kind of I was biased there. Growing up in a house that always had a piano, it's home. Right? So, but beyond just the piano, the vibe in here, as somebody who's walked into crack houses and prisons and every kind of vibe, and then mansions and all the places that span spaces and how they feel, this place has an amazing feel. That it doesn't matter if you have the most rare animal in here. The fact that you do have some cool reptiles in here and the way this space feels, it's going to be that much more successful because of the feel that's in here. I mean, am I right? Do you feel that in here?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you contrast it with most people's reptile collections or whatever, if you go in my space, it feels like a hoarder's house. You know what I mean? Just the super dwarves packed in everywhere. But the difference is this: there's some really incredible animals in there, but I have to make an effort to step back sometimes and just look at the one snake and be like, how incredible is it that I have one of these? There's so many people that I hear it on our YouTube channel all the time. oh my God, I wish I could see one in person. We had someone come out the other day and they looked at the Karumpas, and we have 3 of the 5.
Yeah.
And they're like, holy shit. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm holding it.
I'm
there with it in its presence.
I have touched, smelled, maybe tasted when I wasn't looking 60% of the United States population of Karumpas. You know what I mean? More if you count the baby. So that the stuff is, but it takes a big effort to do that. So I have some really cool, powerful, unique animals in a space that doesn't do them justice. Here, on the other hand, you've got, I mean, we're sitting here in the podcast and I'm super enjoying, what kind of tree frog is that? A gray tree frog?
Gray tree frog.
That was like that. It's a gray tree frog, like the kind you just catch outside and go, hey, frog, and you let it go. And I don't know, he's in this cool little planted, vivarium that's sitting next to this giant oak beam or whatever that wood is. I don't know what that, maybe pine, but little gray tree frog. And you've done him justice just for being who he is. And I don't know. I don't know if you see me keep looking sideways at him tonight. You know what I mean? Maybe that's why I'm so quiet. I'm just like having a moment over here with the gray tree frog. Because of the space you've created around him.
I'm grateful that you see that, because that's what I want. And there was a time when we just moved everything in here, and it was still like nothing was in the space that it deserved. I love the way that you put that. Like, it didn't do him justice. And, and that's the thing is, like, I want when you walk in here, for every animal you look at, like, you get to appreciate it and see it acting naturally. And at no point does it cross your mind, you're like, I feel so bad for that animal.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like that's the feel that I want, that there's just nothing that drags you down in here. Just everything feels good and right. And it's not there yet. And so, like, you guys heard me apologizing a lot of times. I'm like, these are not the tanks that I want them in, because they're not at all. But I love that there's at least something now, in a few little places. It's like, this is what we're doing.
But the feel is there already, and knowing what your goals are for the place, or even though it's not up to your standards yet, which is great because it already has such a great feel in here. So what you're going to end up doing with it is going to be, I'm going to have to come back when you have it completed so I can sit on the couch again.
I said the same.
I hope you guys come back all the time.
Yeah.
See all the stages.
Well, I don't know if you've ever thought about it this way, but your YouTube channel is a platform through which people can experience something. You know what I mean? Which I think is an educational experience about reptiles. And you're presenting them with information, but you also have a lot of like room for the personality of that animal to shine through on your channel, which is, I think, what makes it special. And you'll see the light in your eyes and smile, like geek out about the animals. And when I was coming, my wife's like, "Oh, that's the guy that does the little video," because she's only half in touch with the reptile. She just kind of sees stuff pop up, and she's like, without knowing you and probably just seeing the first 15 seconds of 2 or 3 of your videos, you know what I mean? She's like, "He seems so nice," and then the next breath was, "You better be nice to him." And then I found out, like, you seem nice, but you get pretty thick skin and you can fire back. So we've had some pleasant exchanges.
I appreciate that.
But I don't know if you realize that, but your platform is software based on YouTube, and now you have a physical platform, and there's definitely some weightiness to that, but there is opportunity for that message to come through. And so what you're obviously successful about, the reason why we are all here in Utah right now, is that you're successful about creating a platform with potential. And one of the things I had said to you was, I like what you're doing. And I told you this today, like, this room needs a super dwarf. And so I sent you one. And then I said, we need to work together, I don't know how, to get this thing sponsored and to get it the space that it deserves. I'll provide the animal. You've got the space. Maybe we need to help you a little bit more, but you've got a gray tree frog over here. He's pretty set up. But, you have some bearded dragons over there. You got a blue-tongued skink. There's some gecko species, a few arachnids and things. So a lot of turtles and tortoises that could really use the space. And I hope anybody out there that is listening that has a business that does want to promote and advance the industry, because this is one thing I'm very conscious about, is advancing and promoting my industry, my niche, and for me, it's not about dollars and cents, although that's what kind of makes the world go around. For me, it is about the animals.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone should have one of these animals. These animals are so great. And you're saying everyone should experience the natural world in this way. So I hope that the people out there, I'm sorry, if I was a bearded dragon breeder that was interested in promoting, bearded dragons and the experience that people can have connecting with them, knowing that you are sitting over here saying, hey, I wish I just had 4 really nice bearded dragon setups, that these people with these businesses who are currently pulling finances from an industry would be able to, figure out oh my gosh, if I give this back, it's not even okay, you're responsible, ethically to give back where you've gotten. It's not that. It's a seed planted that grows fruit for those people. That's a serious opportunity. So anybody listening to this podcast right now, if you think that I understand anything about business and promotion of, building of markets, understand that there is a very real opportunity. You can be totally selfish about it too, and it'd be super worth it to help Clint's reptile room be set up and give those animals the spaces they truly deserve. Because I think that's the way that our world is going today. You know what I mean? I think people are keeping less animals. They're keeping them more responsibly. Mm-hmm. There's a bigger push for providing the best possible environments. And there's so many ways to do that. Some people are super naturalistic. Other people build, I saw one guy that had, he was keeping just bluebelly lizards. And he set them up in this 6-foot enclosure, and it looked like a dirt bike track. That's and because he always rode dirt bikes, and he loved seeing bluebelly lizards whenever he did it. So the bluebelly lizards have little ramps and stuff that they bask on and everything. It was super cool, and the lizards are thriving.
Oh yeah.
And he's given them a space that they deserve that helps him connect with the natural world through his love of motocross. You know what I mean? And so you have a physical platform. Every reptile breeder out there is operating in a physical world. And then you have this technological platform through your YouTube channel where you can now connect it. And you could take a physical, weighty platform that they have really, you're open to that, right? If somebody wanted to sponsor their species. Yeah.
Because that's the biggest thing that's kind of holding us back a little bit is I got to wait for I can build stuff. That's sort of what I can afford to do. But I would, but I also lack time, and it takes time to build stuff. And it's but all my finances are invested in just keeping this alive. Mm-hmm. But if we had, that kind of support.
Professional level,
awesome enclosures that I can set them up and just feel great about, and show people, just give people a feeling of this is what I want to do. Because that's the thing is, I think a lot of us, we've never really seen reptiles set up maybe the way that I even envision it in my mind.
That honors the animal.
It's exactly right. I have a vision with bearded dragons where they just have this incredible amount of space. And I think we would see them doing things we've never really observed before in captivity, just behaviors, and I want to be able to give that to them. And that's where I feel like we're not there yet, but there are people that have those sorts of resources. That's one of the things that this whole project has taught me is, I've never I've been a graduate student my whole adult life. I've never had the resources to give a ton of money. I'm happy to give of the things that I have. I'm happy to give of my time and expertise and share our platform to push people I believe in. But I don't have the financial means. But I've learned there are so many people that do or that are so generous with what they have.
I think it's more about generosity than it really is about the resources, because any one of us, my breeding plans, we're going through this season's breeding plans, and we're thinking about, okay, what do we need to make financially? What does the market need more of? Where are we trying to see these projects go in the future, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's all kind of financially based because it's a business decision that goes down. But the reason I work with reptiles has nothing to do with that.
No.
You can make so much more money in any other industry, any other time, So really, and if you had, like I was talking with Joey, Muggleston, your buddy that was down here today, and he was talking about this old Superdwarf he had that was all destroyed face and stuff like that, and it was an original wild-caught Superdwarf.
That Superdwarf was my only real experience with Superdwarfs until Tinley.
And you all said it was horrible, which made me want it really bad. And he said he's no longer with us, right? That the animal died. But I was thinking like, oh man, that would be cool to have. And I would very easily spend $1,500 on an animal like that if he had it, an old beat up Superdwarf and stuff, because for me, the wild caught stuff and the preservation of the bloodlines is honoring that animal. I don't ever want to take an animal out of the wild to put into my breeding programs. People always talk about me going to the islands. We've talked about going to the islands before, and they're like, yeah, you should bring one home. And that thought doesn't interest me. I have everything that I want to have, and if I don't, somebody else has it too. Mm-hmm. But once this animal's out of the wild, it's never going back. So what's really cool is being able to take an animal like that, and not that Joey's was like this, but many of them are. They go passed on from person to person to person, which heaps on health issues, and then the animal's never able to settle. And I understand them very well. I've acclimated many wild-caught Superdwarf reticulated pythons and gotten to the point where, maybe they're never going to be the same as a captive bred baby that's grown up in your home, but that they can be okay again. And I would love to provide that for them because they've given me so much throughout my life. So if I'm going to spend $1,500 to honor an animal like that can maybe breed or make me a financial benefit or whatever, why on earth would I not sponsor a cage in a space like this for an animal like that Superdwarf over there that would honor that animal and teach people, just the majesty of these little dudes?
And I'm so glad that you brought that up to me, because it's honestly, in all aspects of my life, I very rarely doesn't occur to me to ask other people to do things that I feel like I could potentially do. But so often there are people who can do the things that I could potentially do so much better than I can, and they want
a master of that.
They want the opportunity to serve somebody else. Like there's so much to be said for allowing someone else to serve you.
Let me put it to you this way, because my wife has a really hard time with asking for help. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And she doesn't do that. But let me put it to you in a way that I put to somebody else one time. I wanted to go on a trip to Komodo Island, but I wasn't going for the dragons. The first time I went there and I saw the dragons, I met a people group. There's a village there that was in immense physical need. Their living conditions were terrible, and they had nobody in their government or anyone around there. You know what I mean? They were just oppressed and poverty-stricken and everything like that. So I wanted to put together a trip and a team of people with some medical background and, collect a bunch of money and stuff and bring to the kids and all that stuff. And I was trying to do it all in my own power, and the local church got involved. And I was kind of like, well, I don't really want it to be like about that. I want it to be, because I don't want it to be like a charity thing. I want this to be something that hurts me a little bit to give to them, because they're hurting every day. And I would love to help them hold that burden, And the chairman of the board of the church said something to me that changed my outlook on asking people. Brian, you said I'm the master of coordinating effort and stuff. And he said this. He said, Garrett, you're young and you're ambitious and you have the ability to fly to an island and help a tribe of people. He said, I'm 60 and I'm battling cancer and all I have is money. But I want to help bear that burden too. I just can't do it physically. Why are you denying me the opportunity to help you and help those people? And he said, don't be so selfish. And it was funny because I was like, selfish? I'm not asking for help. And he literally said, you're being selfish and not asking for help because you're keeping this opportunity to yourself when it could be, an amazing opportunity for so many more people to learn to bear the burdens of others. And what you're trying to do here is in an industry that has traditionally risen from this background of disposable animals, right? I mean, you think back 20 years, your iguana's $15. You're going to spend $500 setting it up? No, you're not. You'll just buy another one after it dies because you put it in a fish bowl, or whatever, right? They're disposable animals. And you're kind of correcting the wrongs of so many of us. You know, I think all of us can think back to animals that we did not do justice to or bring honor to in our lives because we were young or ignorant, or, you know, we wanted the animals, or we didn't have enough money. We just took shortcuts where we shouldn't have, and the animals were the ones that suffered for it. So it's kind of cool after a lifetime of blessings for me specifically, from the super dwarf and dwarf reticulated pythons, to have the opportunity to honor them in a space like this, where that I don't have the time to do, but oh my God, I was saying, if I could only clone myself, maybe I would do something like this, you know. And I've kind of learned to live vicariously and help other people to do those things, because I can't do them myself. So it's part of why I support Brian. Well, actually, I don't support you on Patreon anymore.
Oh, yeah, we were supposed to talk about that on the last podcast, and I forgot.
But I was Brian's first Patreon supporter. I started sending him money on Patreon before he set up his account, because he had some technical difficulties the first month, so I just PayPal'd it to him. And I set up at his highest level, I think, that you had put at the time. You have higher levels
Then you
now.
had a $10,000 level after
Well,
that.
no,
he's hardalizing this story just a little bit.
No. Let me tell you the facts, according to Hartle. Yeah,
it's an incredible story. Just wait.
I told him to set the Patreon account up. And, you know, one of the things that we've always talked about in our friendship is like, I love your work-life balance. I love that you found a way to just love what you do and make a living off of that. And you're not good enough at it, so let me give you some money so you can keep doing it. You need to set up a Patreon account, because I think other people feel this way as well. Yeah, that's my heartalized summary of the story. But anyways, but that was the intention. And yeah, I did pull my support from you recently, which is
because he's finally gotten good enough.
Years. He's good enough. Yeah. I found somebody else more deserving.
Yeah, my wife.
So I've officially canceled my, long-running first ever Patreon supporter of Brian Cusco, and given the support instead to Hillary Cusco, who is now starting a podcast, which, by the way, my children really enjoy. And they're getting a benefit out of that. And I want to see her keep doing that. He's fine. Like you said, he's good. So he doesn't need that anymore, But that was a cool concept that the guy taught me. Like, let other people help you, because you become like a part of their lives, an extension of their sphere of influence.
It's one of the things I think that we often don't realize, and we have a very weird attitude about it, that serving others is really one of the greatest sources of joy that you can have in your life. Yet often when we get an opportunity to serve other people, we're like, oh, jeez.
That is so
and then after you're done, no one's ever been like, I can't believe I spent my time serving that person. That was the most worthwhile thing I could have done. And it is so easy. And I think we feel like we're inconveniencing other people when we let them serve us. But it's like, really, we're sort of serving them by providing them opportunities to serve.
Yeah.
And we all do so much better when we work together instead of acting like islands.
And, we talk a lot about big egos and stuff on this episode, but the reason why it's hard is because of our egos. And,
absolutely.
There's one thing I like, I might be cocky and arrogant and stuff like that, but honestly, I do
in an
not
endearing way.
Well, maybe to some.
To some, yeah, not Brian.
But I do not. I feel like I do not have a big ego. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That I am very comfortable in my weaknesses, and I realize that some of my greatest strengths, or the most powerful moments in my life, happen because of my weaknesses, and allowing, like you said, I've got this great plan. We're going to make this big space, and it's going to be this big business financial success. Oh, guess what? COVID-19. Ha ha. Right? What a horrifying, moment of exposure and weakness. And you did it publicly in front of everybody on your platform. And instead of being ridiculed or, failing, how much more happened because the community stood behind you
than what incredible.
You could have possibly done if you had opened those doors and done it all on yourself. But we feel like we have to do it on ourselves because of our ego. And so it's egotistical not to be able to accept help, You know, I accept help all the time. You say I'm a master of it. Every time I do that, everywhere I'm able to do that, it's because of weakness. So if I'm a master of accepting help, it's because I need a lot of it. And I realize that.
I meant, when I was saying master of it, I meant you were a master of lining up people who need help with the people who are able to.
Oh, well, I'm good at that because I've experienced it myself so many times, you know. But and I am somebody that loves to help other people. And I know a lot of other people who love to help other people. You know, it's like you said, you said you had a little bit of a perception shift of me. You know, we're all joking around and stuff, herping. And then I said, no, my greatest goal, like I'll work in a box factory. I don't have to be a reptile breeder. I just want to be a good husband and dad.
Yes.
And actually, one of my greatest fears is that I work too hard with the reptiles. You know what I mean? And people on YouTube and all those other things. And we talked about it literally on the way here, driving here from our Airbnb, that I don't do enough to protect my wife and kids and their relationship that they need from me.
It's one of the awkward things about what we are all doing is that there isn't a clear-cut distinction between when we're working and when we're not. And so it's very easy to work all the time.
Well, and people, if you allow them to, you're opening yourself up to a wide and very general audience who has all kinds of different views of things. And in this day and age, people... I think there's a greater sense of entitlement among people, and they're entitled to your time because Walmart will call them back on Saturday night. You know what I mean? All these kinds of things, or this concept of, hey, I'm a paying customer, so you owe me something because I'm buying this off of you. And they get very upset if they don't get an immediate response at an awkward hour, or you know what I mean? Or they feel like you didn't give them the time of day or what they deserved and what they had, and they were going to give you money for that, so they're going to take it back. And my response to those people is, you can't buy this, bitch. Yeah. No, I mean, you have to say that.
Constantly working. You know? I feel like I'm constantly always working. But the great thing is that I've learned at this point to enjoy my work. I've been blessed to be able to enjoy my work. And so... as much as I am constantly working, as we're saying, it doesn't feel like it anymore.
And that's where we're really blessed, is I think we're all getting to do something that we enjoy so much that it doesn't always feel like work. There are probably moments when it does. Not everything we do is enjoyable.
Sure,
but
short moments.
But you know, we feel very blessed to be able to do this. But at the same time, like I in some ways I really... like I look at somebody who's working as a cashier, you know, and there would be no point after you walk away for the day when you're like, maybe I better ring up a few more while I'm at home just to get ahead. Like, no, you just leave that there. It's over. You can completely compartmentalize it and you go focus entirely on your family or whatever you want to do. And I think it's more of a mindset for us that we have to decide, okay, after this time or for the next hour, I'm shutting all that out and I'm just going to be here in this moment.
That's really hard for me to do.
It's become one of the most easy things for me to do in my life currently, is to be able to, and because
polar opposites.
Yeah, raising kids is work, right? I mean, it takes work, it takes effort,
major work.
But it's at the same time, it's one of the most enjoyable things that I've ever done with my life. So that's how I feel about everything now that I do. Is like, this takes work. It's work, but I'm enjoying the hell out of it.
And you can tell that about you, like that you know, permeates everything that you do.
Hopefully I can keep it up.
I just have to figure out how to do it. You know, like that's my wife's greatest criticism of me is it's hard to, you know, my business is very much, and you know, you guys is too. It's very much in the realm of like ideas and creativity and inspiration. And it's not so much like, oh, I got to answer this phone call, but it's hard for me to mentally shut that off because when inspiration comes, you got to take advantage of it. At least that's how I feel.
Yeah, no,
you know,
you're right.
And so my wife's greatest criticism of me is like, even when you're with us, you're not really here anymore. That's a difficult thing to hear, especially for somebody with my priorities. Like, you know, I say all the time, like, you know, I don't know if the house burns down, all the snakes are dead or whatever, I'll be fine. You know, I will survive that and move on, and that would be sad and whatever. But if the house burns down and my kids are inside and they die, I may never recover.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, that's absolutely is my priority. So that's been the tough one for me. That's a tough one for me. So I do enjoy hanging out with guys because you're married, you got 3 little kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Brian, you're married, you got 3 little kids.
We actually have very similar lineups. Like my oldest kid's 7, my little kid's about to be 5.
Yeah.
I've got a baby as well. Well, she's 2 years, is 2 months, but
I'm just like a couple years ahead plus the one. You
we
know
also
what
just
I
had
mean?
our 9-year anniversary with our. So it's it's crazy similarities on that front
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah. You just had your 9-year anniversary too?
Next month.
Oh, sorry,
Next
about to
month.
have.
Crazy.
We're about to have,
Yeah.
and then my son's turned 7 at the end of this month, and then my daughter's 5 next month, and then
There you go. And we
They're
had
just
our
2 months old.
10-year anniversaries. Our 11 will be in December. And then I've got 9, 8, 6, 2.
Yeah, so you're like just a couple years
Just a
ahead?
couple
Yep.
years plus that extra kid. Like, oh, by the way, the 4th one will kick your butt.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Stop at 3.
986. Well, your 4th is a little bit of an oddball too because you had a good gap in there
Yeah.
and we have the same sort of a gap already.
With the youngest.
And it is.
Is she kicking your butt, the baby?
I think she would have kicked our butt even worse if we didn't just do a puppy. Honestly, I've never done a puppy before. I've never really had a dog since I was about 3-4 years old. And we were given this puppy. And man, while I was dealing with that puppy, like getting up with it several times a night, I'm like, I think, Alicia was pregnant most of this time. And I'm like, I think we're going to be fine. I think
The dog was a placeholder of your parenting
just
abilities.
As bad. Like this is,
And we didn't have that. We got used to like, hey, because our oldest son was like, he could buckle his car seat, he could put all his clothes on, he could wipe his own butt. And then it's like, little one, here you go.
You can put a diaper on a baby. It doesn't just go wherever in the house. and the other thing is like I've never, with my kid, stood outside 5-degree weather waiting for him to poop. Not once has that ever happened. And so like that's not to say that the dog is harder than a newborn, but it was like I got transitioned back into what it's like having newborns after having 4+ years off of newborn. We all of our kids are out of diapers and stuff, and then it's like, and we're back in.
You hear that, Ashley? We need more dogs.
And so I wonder if part of it too is like, not even that it's the 4th necessarily, just that it's like you transitioned out of that stage of your life, and then it's like now I'm back into the newborns. Plus, I've also got older kids to be dealing with. So like before when you were doing little kids, you were just doing little kids. Now you're doing little kids and older kids at the same time, and an adventure.
Yeah. Yes.
We do a video where I rank children. They get the lowest score we've ever given anything.
One of my favorite videos you put
don't
out,
make
to be
very
honest.
good pets.
They're horrible pets. If that was the way they were just going to be, and that was all about just having a pet, like I wouldn't recommend them to anybody. But there's nothing more meaningful you can do with your life.
Yeah. The love of your own children is it's the most powerful thing I've ever felt in my life. That's for sure. Incredible. Well, gentlemen, we've gone past our usual amount of time, which is fine, which is great. We could honestly probably keep going all night on to different tangents, but
I mean, we've already been
I never
going
even
for
got to
4
my
days.
second movie question.
that's right.
And we're gonna leave them hanging until the next one.
Maybe next time we come back. Next time we come back to Clint's Reptiles with your fully sponsored cages all over the place.
That would be so incredible. And I appreciate you for bringing that up now. And to me, like it's something I hadn't even thought about.
Yeah.
It was like something I'd hoped for because like Zen Habitats has been really great, and they've sent us some enclosures. Really before we even had the room. I didn't even have a chance to get them set up. Like I built the enclosures and just left them at our old set. But it's like now I have a place for them, and it's like I appreciate them so much. And it's just like if somebody would just dump these enclosures in my lap, like this place, I feel like this place would take shape so fast. And
yeah. Oh, it was a no-brainer to me when you walk in. You're like, oh my gosh, sponsorship opportunity everywhere, And I do it out of like a way like this was really fun and I want to be a part of it. But at the same time, I can see you have a huge platform, right? And people very much respect you, but you don't sell anything.
nope.
You know what I mean?
We have shirts.
So yeah, we have shirts. So, the opportunity is there for, logically, if someone's like, hey, what's the best pet reptile? And they, through one of your videos, have decided, That's such and such a species. The next question is, where do I get mine? You know what I mean? So if the answer is right there in the video because the cage is sponsored by somebody or set up or whatever, you have a good marketing opportunity. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think it's you being able to use your platform to bless a company who gets it enough to give that space to honor a reptile that brings them the joy that it does in their life. It's a no-brainer. That's what you call a win-win situation.
Absolutely. That's the perfect scenario.
Yeah. That's your job after we leave Hurdle.
We already talked about it.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
I started on this podcast. Did you notice?
Yeah.
Crowdsourcing.
Gotcha,
Let's go,
gotcha.
guys. This is a very popular podcast.
Yeah, I think so. I like it.
Maybe all the right people watch it.
Both of them.
Well, Clint,
We'll bring a few more over.
Oh, okay.
we're looking forward to your continued success, man. The things I feel like I'm going to become a broken record here, but the things you're doing are great, and we're looking forward to them becoming greater and making the world a better place for reptiles and people at the same time.
Well, thank you so much. And I really appreciate you guys not only having me on this podcast, but just being here. Like, I don't think any of the three of us really had that many great ambitions for making videos during this time. It's just like we just wanted to be together and get to know each other.
And that's what I've enjoyed. Two things mainly, just getting to hang out. And for me, it was like super last minute. You know, definitely just jumping in and third wheeling along on your guys' little adventure there with Dave Kaufman and Brian Kusko and all that. So that's been the big thing, is just getting to hang out with you and get to know you. Like I said, that climbing the mountain and all that stuff, that was the highlight of my experience.
Well, I was third wheeling because Dave invited me, and I was third wheeling. I was like,
well,
how am I going to run this car? We need a hurdle.
I'm a fourth. I'm just the driver, not even a third wheel. But no, the second thing that has become really evident to me, has been just an amazing opportunity for me this weekend, is to listen to Brian Kusko fanboy over you for an hour and 51 minutes. That is great. I've never quite seen him brown nose so hard and so heavy.
I'm not brown nosing, bro. I'm being honest.
Well, yeah, maybe we need to drink less on this podcast, because you're kind of a mean drunk, but you've been so nice to Clint this whole time.
No, I'm just trying to help humble you. I'm trying to do all your employees' job, humble the hurdle. That's all I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. I'm trying to bring you a little perspective and reality.
That's a good time.
You guys are a good pair. I like this. I'm glad you do this. Perfect.
Oh no, it's been fun. We'll definitely come back. We'll do this one again.
I hope you guys come back all the time.
Yeah,
we will.
Very cool. We'll see you guys here next time. Clint's Reptile Room.